Hello everyone. So today I am going to be reviewing the book Meno by Plato. Meno by Plato is the 50th book I've managed to read in one day and the 80th book I've read this year overall. So of course it's going to get its very own video. So for those of you who do not know, Plato's Meno is essentially an exercise in construct validation. A construct in social science terms is something that we acknowledge to exist but has no physical properties. So think concepts like justice, democracy, freedom, fairness, equality, love, things like that. And so essentially at its base, a person asks Plato, can virtue be learned or is virtue inherited? And he asks him to define virtue. And I think we've all had that experience when we were in grade school and elementary school, and a teacher asked us to define something, and we actually used the word within the definition, and we were snapped at, so we never raised our hand again. At least that's my experience. And he says, well, what is virtue? And the guy describes a bunch of behaviors, such as charity, humility, and whatnot. And Plato says, well, you've just listed acts that are virtuous, but you haven't really defined virtue or where we get the idea of virtue from. In other words, you've done little better than just use the word in the definition. And, a good example of this could be justice. If I say justice is present in this location, well, how do you prove justice exists? You could say courts. You could also say, well, they have a police force. Well, okay, but so does that mean we never had justice before courts and there's no justice absent of a police force? That doesn't really make any sense either, because on several occasions courts have committed injustices, and at various times, though I think much fewer than the media would have you believe, police have acted as agents of corruption. So neither a court system or police is proof of justice existing, yet we all agree it does. Now, I always wondered how, if the old philosophers were wrong about so many things, why do we still teach them? Because it's a great example in thought exercises. And this, and how we prove these constructs now, construct validity, is essentially through math. And let me tell you something. When you get done reading Meno, you're going to be very thankful we've come up with a way to do this mathematically, because trying to just reason it out is very, very difficult. Plato and many of the early philosophers were of this mind that you get these concepts actually when you're just a soul. And when you're a soul, you dwell in a place that's perfect. And when your soul's put in a body, you have some memory, but it's very vague of what was perfect. So that's where you get your sense of virtue and fairness and justice. A good early thought exercise, but now it seems what we've turned up is, honestly, it's behavioral. People in early society who manifested thinking for the good of the group versus themselves, those people were thought of positively. They got to pass on their genes. And if you were a sociopath, psycho, a schemer, betrayed people, you were cast out. And when we had primitive living up to like 7,000 years ago, what were you going to do if you were alone? You can't, take down and hunt an animal by yourself. Well, you can't take down and hunt many by yourself. You need access to water, which usually these other tribes control. So, that is how it is explained now. This, nevertheless, is a good time capsule in how you thought of stuff. And I might mention in another video, there's a specific word, too, for the Plato thing of a memoresis or something like that we all inherit a kind of imperfect memory.